He's Peter Gammons. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing really well, Rich. I'm with the Angels today, which is kind of fun. It's always good. They have so many different layers of people, but it's Scott Radinsky is now their bullpen coach, and he was regaling me about he's now put out like 18 CDs with the band Pulley, and I once brought Johnny Ramone to the ballpark at Dodger Stadium to spend like 3 hours with the two of them. We were reminiscing about that.
How close are you to the batting cage right now, Peter? I'm hearing the crack of the bat in the background.
Not too far. I'm actually just in leaning up against the screen. So, so which is about, I don't know, about 10 yards from the batting cage.
I love it. Who's in the cage right now?
Well, actually, it's there. A bunch of different. Mike Trout was probably the one you heard most.
Yes.
But,
yes, you could tell when folks like him hit the baseball. All right, let's start with the Angels here. Could they be a team to turn it around from last year? Give me some teams that are going to be more surprising, I guess, in 2017, Peter.
I think the Angels will be more competitive. I don't think they're going to beat Houston or Texas. Houston's lineup is absolutely incredible, but they're an interesting team as long as Garrett Richards is healthy, and I think they have a chance to be, probably 85 wins and at least have a hope of a wild card when it comes down to the end. I think for me, I go to Florida for about 10 days, come to Arizona for 3 weeks, and I go back for 2.5 weeks to Florida. To me, the most interesting division right now is the National League West. The Giants are the Giants. They're so good. Their pitching is so good. They play the game so well. It's remarkable. But I'm fascinated by the Dodgers, who I think they're really getting it, that they need to be more like the Giants. The players do. And I see the evolution of a personality with that team. And there's no question Chase Utley is one of the most important people to them. But the deals they've made, look at Forsythe, that's a better player for them than Brian Dozier. I like Brian Dozier a lot, but Forsythe is the right kind of guy, especially to be playing with Corey Seager. And Utley's such a great influence on Seager, but I really like the Dodgers and the depth they have in their pitching staff, and I think they're going to be really good. But what's interesting about that division is that the Rockies have been a huge story in spring training in that I think most people in baseball believe the Rockies' position players, their everyday lineup is the best in baseball. And they are really good. They've got a lot of young power pitchers. And the other is Arizona now straightened out, and their pitching is a chance to be so good that you could have four really, really good teams. People all say, "Oh, the Rockies are going to make the wild." Well, when you're playing, 57 games against the Dodgers, Giants, and Diamondbacks, it's not that easy. So I think it may be hard for a third team to come out of the West and make the wild card. It might even be tough for the Giants if they have any injuries on the pitching staff, but it's a great division. It really is.
Peter Gammons of MLB Network joining me mere feet away from the batting cage with the Angels, which I guess I should give a nice shout-out to Rich Eisen Show radio affiliate, AM 830, Angels Baseball, right here in Southern California. So all that said, though, Peter, if I told you Cubs versus the field, who do you take this year?
I think the Cubs are there. I think the Indians are right there with them again. The last year was probably the first year in history I was ever right about anything. Because I said before, on opening day, I thought the Cubs would beat the Indians in 7 games in the World Series. Injuries happen, and they change around. But I think that they're the two favorites. But, again, I think the Dodgers are going to be really good. The Giants can win any postseason series because of their pitching and their attention to detail. I mean, they win playoff series because of cutoffs and relays and things like that. And the Mets, I mean, their pitching right now is really healthy. So, and Washington. I mean, I think any of those teams could win and can win in October, but the Cubs are definitely the favorites. Their team is so deep, and they're so young and so enthusiastic, and their mantra for spring training is modesty, which I really like.
Huh.
Last year it was, rejoice in being picked to win. This year it's all about just be modest and remember where we were at this time last year. I think it's kind of fun. Joe has something every day. Of course, Dave Roberts comes up with stuff today. Yesterday before they left to go over to play in against the Rockies on the road, Dave Roberts was engaged getting a piano, and I said, well, why are you getting a piano? Well, it turns out, I guess Dave is now becoming Joe Madden Jr. because he was getting a piano so that he has a young pitcher in camp that they think is really going to be good, a guy named Trevor Oates. And apparently he's a really good pianist, so he was giving a recital this morning in the clubhouse for about 20 minutes. I love stuff like that.
I love that stuff, too. Peter Gammons joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is the post-Poppy era going to look like in Boston this year, do you think, Peter?
They should be really good because of their pitching. I mean, the starting pitching, if you could take one statistic I really like is most outs per start, which means a pitcher gets a long way. And Chris Sale and Clayton Kershaw were tied 21 times. 21. They averaged 21 outs per start. And the Red Sox, there were 8 guys tied for second behind Chris Sale, and 3 of them were David Price, Rick Porcello, and Stephen Wright. So there's a pressure on the Boston bullpen is so much less than it's been in the past. I think their pitching is really good, but the presence in the middle of that lineup is still going to be very different. There's a lot of pressure on Bogarts and Betts and the rest of the young hitters on that team. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up to it. If they're in third place on May 1st, I mean, people will be going, just killing the Red Sox. There'll be a lot of pressure on John Farrell as well. But I don't know what happens if they get off to a bad start. I think it could get very ugly because ownership clearly and Dave Dombrowski clearly expect them to win. And it's not that easy.
Well, and before I let you go, Peter, what are the metrics that Rob Manfred and ownership is seeing to make them want to change rules in the game to make this game faster? What are they seeing after a year in which, now I understand you can't have a century-long hex broken by one of the most beloved franchises in sports every year, but 2016 was an incredible year for Major League Baseball on virtually every metric. What are they seeing to try and come up with these ideas to make the game quicker?
I think it mainly has to do with television, and the age demographics. But the one thing I think is that there are so many great young players in the game, 26 and under. I think that they're going to start to regain at least the interest of 25 and under because these guys are so young. I mean, there's great players everywhere. And I understand wanting the pace of play to be a lot faster, but there are certain things that just are never going to work. I mean, I'm still skeptical about a time clock. I think it becomes a distraction. The fans are watching the clock and not the game, and it hurts the game. I think they have some ideas, but really they have to enforce hitters not stepping out of the box and wandering around the field. I mean, doing the Ricky Henderson entertainment. So I think those are things. It's good, but I don't think it's a panacea to everything. You're still going to have they're shortening up some commercial time between innings, but there's a lot of downtime there too. And I don't think, if you go to the concession stands, you don't mind it. And I think it's the performance on the field that sells it. I agree with you. I mean, the Cubs story is a great story. I mean, if you end up with a team like Houston, which has never won, or Seattle, which has never won, ending up in the World Series, it'd be a tremendous hit. Cleveland, they haven't won since 1948. And that would, Cleveland winning because it's such a small market. And, we're in a city where I believe almost 50% of the people who live downtown are beneath the poverty level. It would mean so much to small markets, I think, across the game. I think that those are more important than the timing things.
Did Pujols or Trout just get in the cage? Because the crack of the bat sounds a lot louder on your last comment there, Peter.
Well, I just moved forward because there was some ushers are coming in behind me, pestering me about, can you sign this? So I was moving so that I don't think you want to hear the signing of a baseball on the radio.
No. Hey, Peter, love chatting with you. Have safe travels. We'll chat before the season, okay?
Rich, thanks a lot.
Well, you got it. Always. That's Peter Gammons.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.